that during that work, from time to time, a person would scream out loud when he held in his hands the blood-stained coat of his little girl who had been shot. And she also spoke about executions. 5 days after they had come there, only 300 people survived from the 1,000 deportees from Vienna. And those survivors were also liquidated after some time. We remember the report of the commander of the Einsatzgruppe A about those Jews from the Reich who came with a naive hope about their future because they had been told before they left that they were going to a settlement project in the east. The apparatus of deception worked in good order. Chaim Beren too heard in Minsk that in order to absorb the deportees from the Reich there, 28,000 local Jews had been shot only a few days previously. That, then, was the arrangement. In the same pace in which Nebe and Rash managed to liquidate the Jews of the Soviet Union, Eichmann sent them fresh Jews from the Reich. And then the direct murders began, and from the massive concentration of 100,000 Jews in the Minsk area, only a few score survived. Avraham Aviel testified about the life wish which possessed those designated for murder. Their main wish, their main thought was Überleben, to survive. And he spoke about the city of the sage, the Chafetz Chaim, how the people were marched to their death, how they said the prayer of Shema Israel, and how one Jew tried to present his labor permit, and the German officer stuck the pistol into his neck and shot him. And about the groups of people, 100 people to a group that were marched to the verge of the pit and were shot to the last man. And then we had Rivka Yosselevska as a witness who had dressed her child in Shabbat clothes before they left, and how she saw with her own eyes how her mother and father, her sister and her child, her daughter, had been murdered. Apparently, it was an act of mercy to be killed on the spot, because the drunk murderers would only wound their victims. Then they would drop into the grave, and a second layer of bodies would fall on them, and they would die slowly, a slow and horrible death for hours. Rivka Yosselevska incorporates and exemplifies in her own personality all those horrible, tragic events that happened to this nation. She was shot. She was among the dead in the grave. Everything dragged her downwards and downwards towards death. Wounded, with unbelievable force, she rose from the grave. Her wounds recovered, but her heart is broken and torn forever and ever. She found asylum in her state, rebuilt a home, and rehabilitated herself. She foiled the evil plot. They wanted to kill her, but she is alive. They wanted to strike her memory off the face of the earth, but she brought new offspring to the world. The dry bones have fresh flesh and skin, and new spirit pervades her. Rivka Yosselevska symbolizes the entire Jewish nation.
But this murder didn't seem elegant enough. Eichmann said that these activities might turn people to sadists. This is what Eichmann said at that time. And therefore new methods were sought. Hess said in his memoirs that Eichmann was the one who suggested the use of Cyclone B. This is part and parcel of the final solution, and this is what Hess points out in his autobiography, saying that on the occasion of the second visit of Eichmann to Auschwitz, the decision was taken. Eichmann wanted gas which was easily available, that it wouldn't necessitate any particular installations. It was clearly planned how extermination is going to be carried out, where the required installations will be set up, where the corpses will be taken, how they are going to be disposed of. And at the next visit, Hess points out the experience with Cyclone B had been reported to Eichmann, and Eichmann, together with Hess, decided on the spot, on the strength of those tests, to apply this particular gas henceforth. In a letter, from a letter of Wetzel, we see that Eichmann gave his consent for the use of gas as early as October 1941. In this letter, the same operation of deporting of Jews from the Reich to Minsk is clearly mentioned. His claim that one page is attached to this letter in his handwriting needs a graphological test. If the Council for Defense so wished, he might have easily carried out this particular graphological test as Eichmann desired. At any rate, this letter in its final drafting is clearly traceable, because the name of Eichmann there appears glaringly twice. The letter had been submitted without any claims and without any objections whatsoever. Eichmann does not deny the fact that Wetzel was dealing with Jewish matters so far as deportations to the east are concerned. Finally, he says that the gas problems were discussed in a meeting of department heads in office number 4. He said all the time that he saw the gas vans and he knew how gas was being applied. This was definitely a very mighty support for Eichmann's plans, and Gerstein's documents show it quite clearly. Gerstein was the man who tried during the war to raise alarm through the intermediary of the Swedish government, the man who committed suicide in a French jail. He confirms that Günther, Eichmann's deputy, had ordered from him on 2 occasions poisonous gas, first in 1942 and for the second time in 1944, when he was inquiring about how to put to death the remnants of Jews in Terezin. Gerstein described in detail the hideous activities in Belzec. He explains how gas was supplied, and in our documents it is clearly stated that Günther demanded from him to make arrangements in order to use cyanide gas in Belzec instead of diesel engines, which were not as efficient as all that. This is an additional testimony in the chain of evidence pointing to direct responsibility of Eichmann and his department for the supply of lethal gas. Here it was very difficult for Eichmann to claim that the evidence was forged or that Gerstein was trying to shift responsibility on him. Therefore, he gave us a very nice story about a secret mission entrusted, as it were, to Günther by Miller. He remembers something very vaguely, something about gas that Günther was involved in, as he points out. But he doesn't remember it clearly. He doesn't actually remember anything, and he can, after all, only give evidence on the basis of documents. Eichmann admitted that he knew beforehand that he was going to be interrogated on the gas affair. He admitted that he had heard about Gerstein's evidence in Argentina. All this cock and bull story about Günther's secret mission was, of course, just a pack of lies. Obviously, it is quite possible that Miller was discussing certain matters with his subordinates and would entrust to them certain secret missions, but that was only in cases of communists. Rudolf Hess says it quite clearly that so far as Jews were concerned, a free hand was left to Eichmann's department. It may be assumed that Miller would entrust certain missions to a secondary clerk. Would there be any reason whatever to conceal it from the head of the department? If a small fry clerk were more devoted and enjoyed more confidence, then perhaps it would be possible. But after all, Eichmann confessed it all the time that he knew about the gas. So why should this be concealed from him? After all, he knew that gas was coming from a certain place, didn't he? And if, according to his words, RSHA had no connection whatsoever with the gas, and that it had no share in the extermination, so then what would be the sense of Miller's activity here? Why should he have at all embarked on some secret activities? If what Eichmann said was true, what connection would there be between Miller and the gas problems? The conclusion, which is glaringly apparent here, is that Wetzel's letter, evidence given by Hess and Wislitzeny, the seeking of a solution which doesn't turn people into sadists, show one thing very clearly: the proposal to use the gases and the proposal to supply this to the death camps. And this is quite clear. Where did this proposal stem from? Also, the camouflage activity, the activity of drawing the red herring across the trail of murder, was his activity. Wislitzeny said it quite clearly that the Death Brigade 1005 was subordinated to Eichmann. And though Lobel was his superior so far as rank was concerned, von Bach-Zalewski, the defense witness, said that Himmler would only consider the personal capacity and not the rank. It was the status of the man that determined the activities entrusted to him and not the rank. Therefore, it wouldn't be surprising at all that Global was actually subordinated to Eichmann so far as the burning of bodies was concerned, and the leveling of graves. Lobel is this very same man who, according to Hess, showed Hess the death installations in Helno in accordance with Eichmann's instructions. Hess corroborated that Lobel was within the realm of Eichmann's jurisdiction, and that only under Eichmann he had implemented this activity of effacing the trails of murder. The court will remember Dr. Wells about the burning of corpses and leveling of graves. The description given here about the opening of the grave where his corpse was to be found. He said when they were looking for corpse number 127, this looks like a nightmare of a lunatic asylum. This operation was also dealt with by witness Resnick, and the court will certainly remember the story of a mother who found in an open grave her own infant in white overalls and white little shoes. I'm not going to repeat this. I'm not going to recount the story of murder. I just would like to ask the court to look over the relevant documents which show it so clearly.
Another chapter which Eichmann wants to wash his hands is the demand by the RSHA addressed to Rosenberg, the Minister of Occupied Territories in the East. The other chapter is in regard with the request to Rosenberg, the Minister of the Occupied Territories in the East, to deal with the survivors and the remaining Jews in that area. The instructions were given the correction to the Brown file, and Heydrich instructed Eichmann, the man who deals with Jewish matters, to introduce and draft these corrections. The Sachbearbeiter für Judenfragen, this was Eichmann, and this was the man who drafted these corrections. Now Eichmann wants to escape as a man would fly from a fire, because these terrible corrections, the bearers of death and the announcers of destruction, they connect him and put another link in the chain between himself and the extermination of the Jews in the East. In his testimony, he tries to throw dust in the eyes of the court and say that Heydrich wrote the letter assigning this task to him, but that in the draft there is a handwritten correction. Now he identifies this handwriting as that of the Secretary of Office number 2, and here, according to his words, a proof that it was Office number 2 and not himself who introduced the corrections to file the Brown file. But once again, it is clear that this is a stark lie. These corrections, in accordance with the Wannsee Conference decisions, were drafted accordingly 9 days later. It was Eichmann and not anyone from Office 2 who took part at this conference. Office 2 was the office to inform Rosenberg that Eichmann and no one else will draw up the necessary corrections. This is signed by Heydrich. And why doubt this document? That the man to deal with Jewish matters, the referent to implement the Wannsee decisions, will be the man to whom Rosenberg refers. And who is this man? He is a man from the legal office. And according to the assignment of tasks, he cooperates with all departments in that office. He is the man to take part at legal drafting sessions where legal matters are raised. And no doubt he had a hand in this enterprise of murder. But the policy of direct extermination, apart in the final solution, this is a matter for Eichmann to deal with, and not the legal advisor of the RSHA. And in Western Europe, the North and the South, the battlefield was being carried on. And in each of the satellite countries, in every center of occupied territory, a man sits there receiving direct orders from Eichmann, although President of Court. Is there any proof regarding the instructions found in the brown file that this actually served as directions and instructions? Attorney General, there were a number of files, as we know. There was a green file, I believe there was another file of some other color, and there was the brown file. These later were the directives according to which Rosenberg acted. This was brought up in the case against Rosenberg. President of Court. But the judgment in this case was not submitted by you. Rosenberg was one of the accused in the Mr. Hausen and the IMT file. Yes, of course it was submitted to court. President of Court, yes. In the west and north and south of Europe, the battle continues, and in the capital of each satellite country or occupied territory, a representative sits who is formally subordinate to someone else, but actually receives direct instructions from Eichmann. The attack of Jewish centers was carried out in cooperation in France, Holland, Belgium, Slovakia, the communities in Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Romania, Norway, Denmark, Greece, and Italy. And at the very same time, actions were continued within the Reich and the Protectorate. This network was spread all over occupied Europe, and the Jews were trapped in their hundreds of thousands. From these countries, many documents remained, and a part of them we shall point out in the verbal summing, in the written summing up, which will be submitted to court. And I will be satisfied by pointing out the conferences called by Eichmann for the issuing of instructions, for supervision, to lay down directives to all advisors in Jewish matters. When cross-examined, he admitted that these men called by him were active all over Europe. They dealt with the marking of the Jews, with the location of the Jews, and their deportation to the east. Eichmann was not content that those who carry on the work come to him for advice, but he went to them. He visited all countries of deportation, at least the important countries. He instructed those men to keep continuous contact with him to implement his instructions, and together they labored and he encouraged their actions. He denied ever meeting Neumann, but document T563 proves that he did, and proves that together with Neumann at a meeting where deportations were discussed, the directives, and to increase the fee paid to informers about Jews. He laid down the directives whereto the Jews would be deported. There were 3 destinations known to us through these documents: Auschwitz, Travniki near Lublin, and Izbica, also near Lublin. And when he was questioned about the aim of these deportations, Eichmann said, and I quote, this was at session 97, page 26. Whatever the case, I never denied that to my regret, deported Jews were sent to their death. I could not deny this. Of course, he could not deny this, Eichmann, because he cannot contradict tens of documents claiming that they were all forged, that they were all mistakes, and they were all attempts to distort facts. We know, and he admitted at the police, that he was the deporting authority to extermination camps. This in T37, page 1766. Sometimes he was the man to fix the destination, to Auschwitz or to Holm, as is mentioned in many documents. What is this direction towards home? Expires from the geographical place of the town known as Chelm, in the center of Globotnik's district, and from this place it was easy to send on the deported Jews to extermination camps.